Hello everyone. I'm going to jump right in and show the basic use, and then we'll run through all the tools. This is going to be a pretty wild ride because there are a lot of features to cover. So let's get this out of the way, how just to use the tool set real quick, and then we'll deep dive into the feature set. Okay, I'm going to begin by selecting an editable poly object. Then I can click the SSUV preview panel right here. Okay, what that does is the system will check to see if your object, okay, has an unwrapped modifier selected in the modifier stack. If one is currently not there selected, one will be added for you. Then we automatically render out the UV map for that modifier and place it here in the preview panel. If I click it again, you'll see that another unwrapped modifier is not added, okay? And if you don't want the default behavior of adding an unwrapped modifier for you when it is needed, you can turn that off in the settings. However, I don't recommend that you do that. I just want you to be aware that it is available. Let me just say real quick that I apologize if I'm speaking too fast. Hopefully the video will still make sense if you turn the volume completely off. I'll try to do my best to make this as easy as possible to understand. I'm pretty sure you'll love this tool set once you get used to how it works. Okay, so let me preview a few things here for you, and then we'll jump into direct information about sections, okay? I'd like to turn on the checker override, and I have a checker override system implemented into the system. Yeah. We can left click on this blue X mark button, okay? And that will turn on the default checker material override. Okay. While it is in the checker mode, we can right click to go from fully self-illuminated, which is the default, to a shaded variant, which means it's not illuminated. Okay. And then we can right click again to get two different user customized UV maps, which you can replace. Okay. I'm going to right click again and again. This is the one that I prefer, just the shaded version. I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to come back to it because I need to show you something else. Another left click will take us to the fast shader. Okay, another left click will turn the system off. I'm going to left click to get back to my shaded checker. All right, let's begin. I'm going to jump into polygon mode, which is 3 on the keyboard. Okay, I'm going to select some faces here, and you see I didn't get any back faces selected. To do that, we can turn back facing off here or in the panel of the rollouts of the modifier, right? But I like it here in the panel because when I refresh this object, this button is updated as well as the seams button and various other UI elements that we'll cover later, okay? And there we go. Now, another reason why I like that is because it's right there in my face. I won't have to visually filter for where that button is located, which it's easy. You scroll up to the top and you find it. But you'll see more of what I mean later when we talk more about this. So I have the top selected. I'm going to left click this special SSUV button. That's going to break off and heal that section. So it's going to create an element from that. And then it's going to UV solve it based upon the UV solver that we have set here in the settings section. I suggest leaving it on LSCM unless unfold is needed. Unfold requires that the editor is opened up for every function that involves Unfold 3D's algorithms. So you'll be waiting on that window to open and close quite often, and that becomes a little bit of a time spend. Okay, so let's continue on. So now I'm going to double left click the bottom. I'm going to left click the SSUV button. Now you'll see that we have these two sections here, these two elements are overlapping one another. Okay, so let's pack those real quick. Control A to select all. Now I can select the packing type that I prefer. I have packing 3 set as default. This is the default setting, and these settings are used for whenever we're done completing various features throughout the tool set. Okay, So be mindful of what settings you have here, but you can also jump around and make changes based upon what you prefer at the moment. Okay. So now you see that. Let's jump into what a right click of this SSUV button does. Okay. So I'm going to left click again. And just so you get an idea of what happens here, that object is now a blank UV canvas per se. It's a blob of UV. It's an unusable UV for the most part, right? We don't want something looking like this, right? So it resets it basically to a planar map of the object. And that way it makes it easier for you to begin again, I suppose. So let's just jump in again. I'll select the top half. All right. Now this time I'm going to right click. And there we go. Now what happened is it took the selection that I had and it created an element from it. At that point, the all of the elements are selected, all of them are solved, and then all of them are packed based upon the settings you specified here. Okay, so while that is great for lower poly, mid poly objects, it might not be the best route for high poly objects, right? Because every right click will require all of the elements to be iterated through, solved, and then packed. So use right click sparingly. Okay, going to left click again to reset that UV per se, and then go into edge mode. At this point, I'm going to turn on edge preview, double click, control double click, and at this point, I'll left click the SSUV button, and you'll see that all we've done is breaking those edges apart. Okay, so we've created UV elements, but we haven't solved any of the UV elements for laying them out. We haven't done anything more than break the edges. Okay, so why is this useful? Well, if you're working on an organic object, such as a character's body, you can set the edge cuts and then afterwards proceed with different solving here. So you can spread single selections, the whole selections, just like a right click of SSUV, but without breaking anything out. There's a lot to this, so you can choose how you'd like to move through this, right? So let's just go back to this. We'll go back to 3, Control A, select all, and reset that UV again. This time I'm going to right click after setting these edges. Now I'll right click, and you see it broke the edges. It grabbed the object, found all the elements, solved them based upon the UV solver that I have selected, and then it packed the object based upon the settings I have specified here in the packing section. Good? Okay, so let's do this. 3, Control A, left click to reset again. I'm just going to show you just the vertices here. We can select some vertices and left click. You see that they just break. It's the same as the edges. And then if I right click, it's the same as the edges. Now that's a terrible example. I apologize for that. Let's make something better here. Reset. I'll go with 1. And we'll just do this. It's a little bit silly, but there we go. Okay. I'll give you a better preview of this. So let's turn this up to 1024. I'll refresh that. There you are. Okay. Let's take that back out, close that, we'll go back here. So 3, Control A, SSUV, it's all reset. There we go. So now if I have no object selected and I click in the panel will clear itself. Okay, so I just wanted to show you one more thing to finish up this video, and then we'll move to the next. If I go into polygon mode and I select the top, okay. We have to load the object into the panel. Now we see that the back face is turned on, so we'll turn it off. Okay. I'm going to left click, and maybe it's best we turn this off too, so you can see this. Now if I select these, and you've seen an example of this, but I just like to be a little bit more clear with this. Right? So I'm selecting faces on 2 different elements, right? Now when I left click, it's going to create an element from that. You notice that those edges, those seams, I'm sorry, were removed. They're no longer there. That is one element. There's no break into it. Now, if you prefer to have the edges there, there's no default way to do that at this time, but we can simply select an edge, then we'll right click on the loop button down here for plus, That will select all the edges within the borders of the element. Okay, then we can left click, select this one, left click, and you get the idea. The primary thing with this is speed. So if you're trying to get something UV mapped, you can select something, select the top, break it off, select this, break it off. And this is a bad example. I'm just showing you how fast we can get through things. Okay, so we have that, double click, there we go. Now I can Control A, choose a packing method, and there we go. We're off to the races.